Live from Washington, D.C., Jay Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, your host, Jordan Sekulow.
Welcome to Jay Sekulow Live. Let me get you updated. We have filed, holding in my hands right now, we have filed a formal legal complaint with the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners. I'll read it for you. We are writing to file a formal complaint against Dr. Laura Kalab, a physician who currently has an active license with the Medical Board of Ohio that is set to be effective through June 20th, 2021. The license type is a training certificate, DO, with license number, and then the license number is there. We talk about the tweets, her social media commentary, and we say that the purpose of this letter is to officially ask the board to revoke her medical license permanently so that no other clinic might inadvertently hire her and no other patients might be put at risk. We also reserve the right to take legal action. We have identified 6 out of the 9 founding principles of the American Medical Association's Code of Ethics she has violated just by these commentaries. 6 of the 9 founding principles. That's before you actually get into their Code of Ethics. And then 2 of their Code of Ethics provisions, one involving dispensing drugs. Remember, I guess the most famous tweet here, infamous tweet, is saying, "I'll give Jews the wrong medications." And by the way, when she said Jews, she used a derogatory term. She didn't even say Jews. And then there's also a ethics code for the American Medical Association on professionalism in the use of social media. But let me make it clear, the ACLJ is asking for her license to be revoked permanently by the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners. Let me go to our team in the studio with me. Wes Smith is joining us too. I know, Wes, you've wanted to comment on this. This is a matter, again, she's licensed. It still is out there that she has this license. And we're concerned that though the Cleveland Clinic did the right thing, her school has done the right thing, that the Ohio State Board of Examiners may not want to take the further step, which is complete revocation.
Right, which is exactly what they need to do. She managed to violate not only the spirit and the ethics of the American Medical Association and the American Osteopathic Association, she violated human decency. This young doctor is espousing terrorism. I mean, literally espousing terrorism as a doctor, and violent views, as we know, often lead to violent actions. She offered support in her tweets for terrorist organizations which actually, as we speak, are killing people, while she's threatening and calling for the killing of Jews. As I read through these stories, it shocks the conscience. I think about all of my doctor friends who serve in the armed forces of the United States, and I've served with them, and I know many of them. And the countless times in Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq, they have brought in terrorists who have just, moments before killed U.S. soldiers. And those doctors will work on that terrorist to save the terrorist's life. That's what doctors do. Right. That's what they're supposed to do.
They're not the judge and jury.
Yeah, and she violates not only the code of ethics of these professional organizations, she's violating the standards of human decency and of the spirit in which all doctors are supposed to operate, and thankfully the spirit in which most doctors do operate.
I want to go to a phone call. Ellen in California, who is a doctor. Ellen, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
I just wanted to make a comment. My husband and I are both physicians, and when we heard the story, we were just deeply disturbed by it. And, as a physician, we have our religious and political views, sure. But as soon as somebody walks in that door who needs your help to help sustain their life, all of that goes out the door. And you treat that person as a living individual, and the life itself is so much more important than all these other issues. And you do not allow your feelings to dictate or influence the way that you would treat them.
Yeah, well, sounds like you and your husband are good doctors. And that's the right way. You don't treat patients differently based off their race, their nationality, their religion, or because of your own political views. And yet this doctor was threatening to do just that. Folks, as we head to break, let me encourage you to sign the petition for you to get active as well. A petition to stop vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You could sign the petition by calling the number on your screen. You see that right now on your screen, or by going to aclj.org. That's aclj.org. Sign that petition today. We'll be right back.
A Muslim medical doctor in training publicly threatened to, quote, purposely prescribe the wrong meds to Jewish patients. Laura Kalab, a first-year resident at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic, brazenly said, quote, Allah will kill the Jews. She called Jewish people, quote, dogs, and is brutally unsympathetic about the Holocaust. This anti-Semitism turns the Hippocratic Oath, quote, do no harm, on its head. Unsurprisingly, Kalab is part of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, further exposing BDS for what it is, thinly veiled anti-Semitism. At the ACLJ, we've been aggressively fighting the BDS movement and these sickening attacks on the Jewish people in Israel. Now we're sending a formal complaint to the medical board in Ohio. Kalab and any other medical professional who espouses this deadly level of hatred for Jews should lose their medical license. Take action with us now. Add your name to our petition to stop vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You can add your name online, aclj.org.
We've got Mark Goldfeder, who prepared the letter we have delivered. This is, again, been sent to the formal complaint that we have filed with the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners this morning. And, Mark, you identified just out of the provisions of the American Medical Association's Code of Ethics, just like we have as attorneys, and their Code of Ethics, 6 provisions she violated right off the top just by sending out these kind of messages.
Yeah, there are 9 foundational principles that the American Medical Association bases its code of ethics on, and she violated 6 of the 9 foundational, which is an unbelievable thing before you even get to the text of the code itself. And she also violated multiple provisions of the American Osteopathic Association's code of ethics, among other codes of ethics. And so, again, working with Chief Counsel Jay Sekulow, our team of attorneys identified a variety of ethical violations that make it abundantly clear that she is simply unfit to practice medicine. And no licensing board obviously wants to be in the position to have to take back a license once given. But again, there can be no hesitation when it involves protecting innocent lives. Now, one thing that's important to address here is that the American Center for Law and Justice is an organization that is dedicated to protecting and defending constitutional liberties, including freedom of speech. But this is not freedom of speech. No. When you are when you are out there threatening violence against innocent people based on their race, their religion, their creed, it is unbelievably offensive and dangerous, and the Constitution does not allow for that kind of quote-unquote speech. And so
And that threat, Mark, I mean, using a specific license, like to practice medicine, as a way to carry out that violence that she is talking about, that not all of us can just say we're going to give people the wrong medication. You have to go through and be specifically licensed to prescribe that medication. She was going through that process. She had finished all the schooling, all the testing. She was in the residency program. So she was in the steps to actually be able to carry out the violence that she tweeted about.
That's right. She was put in a position of trust, and no patient should ever have to seek medical help in a facility employing a doctor who has the kind of hatred in her heart that's necessary to actually commit that kind of violence on another person.
She's already been fired from her job. So Cleveland Clinic already did the right thing. The school is horrified. The medical school where she attended, Toro, which is a historically Jewish school, is horrified. And again, is looking at their own policies, but still wants to be a diverse institution. I think most Muslim doctors would be horrified at this situation as well. But the best course of action is with the Ohio Board of Medical Examiners. They've got the power, really, Mark, to determine whether or not her career continues in medicine or not.
That's right. And I should point out that the Zionist Organization of America actually signed on to our complaint as well, and that we're working with our partner organizations to make sure that we present a unified front. Again, it's important here to realize that there needs to be a balanced approach in the sense that we don't have evidence yet that she had actually acted upon her threats. If such evidence does come to light, there are obviously a lot more important legal ramifications. But for right now, what we do know is that she openly made these threats and is therefore completely unfit to practice medicine.
And again, that is a bit of news here. We filed, just to let everybody know, we've taken formal action. We've got other groups that have signed on. Zionist Organization of America has signed on. And Mark, just make sure to update us as we continue to follow this and continue to work on this matter. As the response from Ohio is going to be very important, and that response we believe could come very quickly, right, Mark?
Absolutely, and we let them know that as a law firm, we're reserving the right to take any further legal actions that we deem necessary. But as concerned citizens, we hope that no further action should be necessary, and that there'll be a swift answer to our request.
Stand with us. The Zionist Organization of America has also signed on with our formal legal complaint, and we've reserved the right to take legal action with the Ohio Board of Medical Examiners if necessary. We hope that is not the case in this matter. We hope that they do the right thing. But what we have asked them to do is revoke permanently the license for Dr. Sekulow, who has called for this violence against Jews, death. May Allah take the lives of the Jews, so we may be stopped being forced to go to the unclean ones. Calls Jews dogs. Says to destroy the homes of the Jews because they live so long. I mean, literally that, again, sometimes quoting Arabic, sometimes using English. Allah will kill the Jews. She talks about the Hamas Charter, support for Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and in direct relation to her position as a doctor, says, I'll purposely give all the, and she uses a derogatory term, I'll purposely give all the Jews the wrong meds. So we've called for her license to be permanently revoked in a formal, complaint that we have filed. I want to go right to the phones. Ann is calling in from San Diego, California, on line 5. Ann, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
So about that doctor, when I called in, I served in Iraq and as a physician assistant doing detainee ops. And you know what? We treated those people great.
Yeah.
There was, and that was a difficult mission.
Yeah, I'm sure
very
it was.
difficult mission because some of those guys were hateful and nasty. But you know what? We didn't play God out there. The professionals, the physicians that were there, we practiced great medicine.
Wes, this is exactly what you said. You know what happens on the battlefield is that, and Ann's, as a physician assistant, specifically assigned to detainees.
Right.
I mean, there are doctors at Guantanamo Bay specifically assigned to those detainees at Guantanamo Bay. They were some of the worst terrorists in the world.
Yeah, countless examples of military doctors, Army, Air Force, Navy doctors working hard to save the life of a terrorist because to them it is a patient, and there is this standard of care. And there is the ethical environment in which medical professionals are supposed to operate, which is why this doctor in Ohio didn't just violate some rules of the American Medical Association. She violated something that is sacred, and it's a shock to the human conscience. This is simply not how doctors operate, and doctors and physician assistants like Ann are rightfully incensed, indignant about this, which is why she should never be licensed to practice medicine.
If you want to talk to us on the air, we've got our final segments coming up in just a couple of minutes. If you're holding to join us on the air, we will get to your phone calls. We do have a few lines open because we took some calls these last two segments. If you want to be on the air, give us a call. This is the time to call in, 1-800-684-3110. And specifically, I would love to hear from medical professionals. We heard from doctors today, physicians' assistants today. We heard a lot from nurses yesterday. But again, on this matter specifically, do you agree with us that Dr. Sekulow's license should be revoked permanently so that she is never able to practice medicine in the state of Ohio after saying to kill all the Jews, after saying that she will use her position as a doctor to prescribe the wrong medicine, to give the wrong medicine to Jews? I want to hear directly from medical professionals, whether you are in the nursing field, the physician's assistant world, as a doctor. Do you agree with us that her license should be revoked? Let me go to Harry Hutchinson as well. Harry, the idea here, as what is coming out of my mouth, is sometimes shocking, that she would, prescribe the wrong medicine to a group of people because of her political beliefs. This is someone who was prepared to take Islamic extremism and use a medical license to carry out her own attacks.
Absolutely. And so no patient should ever have to seek medical care in a facility that employs a doctor that is prepared to misuse medicine to poison the patient. That's number one. Number two, we should take seriously Dr. Kolob's willingness to propagate threats which lead ultimately in many cases to violence. According to an FBI report, Jews are disproportionately targeted for violence, and that is because of anti-Semitic attacks like those of Dr. Kolob.
Folks, as we head to break, let me encourage you to sign the petition for you to get active as well. A petition to stop vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You can sign the petition by calling the number on your screen. You see that right now on your screen, or by going to aclj.org. That's aclj.org. Sign that petition today. We'll be right back.
A Muslim medical doctor in training publicly threatened to, quote, purposely prescribe the wrong meds to Jewish patients. Laura Kolob, a first-year resident at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic, brazenly said, quote, Allah will kill the Jews. She called Jewish people, quote, dogs, and is brutally unsympathetic about the Holocaust. This anti-Semitism turns the Hippocratic Oath, quote, do no harm, on its head. Unsurprisingly, Kolob is part of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, further exposing BDS for what it is, thinly veiled anti-Semitism. At the ACLJ, we've been aggressively fighting the BDS movement and these sickening attacks on the Jewish people in Israel. Now we're sending a formal complaint to the medical board in Ohio. Kolob and any other medical professional who espouses this deadly level of hatred for Jews should lose their medical license. Take action with us now. Add your name to our petition to stop vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You can add your name online, aclj.org.
The task that we have before us is great, and we have no time for delay. In 2009, we opened our permanent office in Jerusalem. 1 year later, I found myself before the International Criminal Court in The Hague, the ICC. The Palestinian Authority, much like the BDS movement of today, sought to utilize an international tribunal for one purpose, and one purpose only: to delegitimize the Jewish state of Israel. BDS is the flip side of that same coin. We call it lawfare, utilizing the legal system to delegitimize a people or a group.
BDS is a new form of anti-Semitism. Today it's not politically correct to say, I hate Jews. So you say, I hate the state of Israel. The call to boycott the state of Israel, to divest investment from the state of Israel, and to apply sanctions. We should not accept it. It's pure anti-Semitism.
Perhaps the most outrageous thing about BDS is its very name. Because people say BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions. How come is it that you automatically mean Israel? There are so many countries in the world which really deserve to be boycotted, divested, sanctioned.
We shouldn't forget, people think that boycott, divestment, and sanction might not be the biggest deal, that when the Nazis came to power, the first thing that they did was set a boycott of Jewish businesses.
But the reality is the whole BDS movement is based on a fundamental fraud. And that is the idea that what Israel does should be targeted because it's the Jewish state. Because at the end, that's what it's about.
All right, so we have taken action with Dr. Kolob, filed a formal complaint with the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners, and glad to announce that the Zionist Organization of America has also signed on to our letter calling for Dr. Kolob's license to be permanently revoked. We will keep you updated on a response from the Ohio Board of Medical Examiners, that was submitted electronically. We'll file, so that's how they take their formal complaints. So, I mean, they immediately received that from the ACLJ, and we expect that they could take action on this very quickly. I feel like we've gone through the matter, and I don't love reading out her tweets, to be honest with you, over and over again. Karen is calling in from New York on line 3. Karen, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
Thank you so much. What a way to start a new year, huh?
Yeah, always a battle. There's battles in Washington, and we've got our battles here. This one in Ohio.
Amen. But, my fear is that it may stretch further than Ohio, and I'll tell you why. Somebody with these credentials, what really needs to be done is that she needs to be revoked in any form of medicine. For example, she could easily go and maybe get a nurse's license. She should not be allowed to do anything in medicine. She should not become an NP. She should not become a physician assistant. She should not even become a certified nurse's aide. She should have no access to anything medical at all.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree. And you come from the medical field, Karen?
I am absolutely a registered nurse and served United States Army Nurse Corps Reserve component.
Oh, and thank you for your service to our country. I think you point out something important. The focus here is that, and why we call for her permanent revocation, Harry, is because you could imagine a situation like in many hospitals across the country where, a prominent place like the Cleveland Clinic fires someone like Dr. Kalab, but a rural hospital who's got some trouble, maybe can't offer the same kind of economic packages, may pick someone up like this even if she got a suspension, may pick someone up like this in the state of Ohio.
Absolutely. So you raise a very good point. There are many underserved communities in the United States, both rural and urban.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that she could pop up on the medical radar in some other capacity, as the caller rightly indicates. And so we need to make sure that we vigilantly pursue this particular individual to make sure that she is no longer not only allowed to practice medicine as a physician, but that she has no medical contact with patients anywhere in the United States. I think it would be very unacceptable for her to have anything to do with medicine or to work, for instance, as a pharmacist going forward.
The sad commentary about this, though, Jordan, is that in some ways, our society gives tacit permission for viewpoints like hers. What she said on Twitter is common parlance in the United Nations in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at that, you look at large portions of academia, which are openly anti-Semitic. She probably thought in her circle of friends and in the world in which she operated that what she was saying was not controversial, and that makes it even more scary.
Yeah. I mean, I think, though, where she crossed the biggest line is not even the support for Hamas or the BDS movements, but was saying, I will use my medical license and give people of a certain group, Jews in this case, the wrong meds, to quote her directly. And that is where she crossed a serious ethical line, not just of supporting these terrorist groups and others, but where she was going to take an active job in carrying out in her own kind of terrorist action, in a sense, because of the license that she had and the special abilities she had, unique access to people that she had. Let me go to Carol in Colorado on line 1. Carol, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
Hi there. I think the thing that I'm hearing is probably a lot down the lines of what I was going to say, and that is I really recognize that these tweets were made a few years ago, but she doesn't seem to recognize that there's any repercussions for what you write something and it's like, oh, well.
Yeah. And she continued to write this, Carol. I mean, and what's interesting is the American Medical Association's Code of Ethics, Carol, specifically says physicians should routinely monitor their own internet presence to ensure that the personal and professional information on their own sites and to the extent possible, content posted about them by others is accurate and appropriate. And then it goes on. They must recognize that actions online and content posted may negatively affect Their reputation among patients and colleagues may have consequences for their medical careers. Consequences for their medical careers, particularly for physicians in training and medical students, and can undermine public trust in the medical profession. She was a physician in training, specifically. That is, and so right there, the American Medical Association recognizes that these physicians in training, young people, that they are really should be monitoring what they're saying because it can impact whether or not they have a career in medicine.
Absolutely, and it can adversely impact the entire medical profession. So that's why it's really essential that the Ohio Medical Licensing Board take immediate and unconditional action, and it's also very important why we should continue to monitor Dr. Kolob to make sure she's unable to practice medicine going forward. I think it also speaks to another thing, that she had an intense dislike for Jews and for the state of Israel because she was unprepared to abide by medical ethics, which are clear and unmistakable. And so I think that is another reason why we need eternal vigilance with respect to this particular individual, but we also should make an example of Dr. Kolob going forward with respect to other physicians or potential physicians who might like to practice, but who harbor intense hatred against Jews.
Folks, we always want to give you a way to be active on issues. We filed a formal complaint in this matter with the Ohio State Board of Medical Examiners. We reserve the right to take legal action, but we also have a petition that you can sign standing with us to stop this vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You see the number on your screen? That's the number you call right now to sign the petition. You can also go to aclj.org and sign the petition online, but I encourage you right now, take that level of action. Get involved with us by signing the petition. We'll talk to you next time.
A Muslim medical doctor in training publicly threatened to, quote, purposely prescribe the wrong meds to Jewish patients. Laura Kolob, a first-year resident at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic, brazenly said, quote, Allah will kill the Jews. She called Jewish people, quote, dogs, and is brutally unsympathetic about the Holocaust. This anti-Semitism turns the Hippocratic Oath, quote, do no harm, on its head. Unsurprisingly, Kolob is part of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, further exposing BDS for what it is, thinly veiled anti-Semitism. At the ACLJ, we've been aggressively fighting the BDS movement and these sickening attacks on the Jewish people in Israel. Now we're sending a formal complaint to the medical board in Ohio. Kolob and any other medical professional who espouses this deadly level of hatred for Jews should lose their medical license. Take action with us now. Add your name to our petition to stop vile anti-Semitic attacks on Jews. You can add your name online, aclj.org.